Ridley Scott's Alien has a really unique look and feel to it. I think it's this kind of very distinctive 70s view of the future. I think he's kind of taking elements from 50s and 60s popular culture view of what it would be like to live in the future, but he almost filters it through this kind of 70s slightly disillusioned filter of the future. So it's not the sort of shiny, idealized view of the future. It's very grounded and kind of gritty and everyday. And I think that's one of the things that makes it work within the kind of context of horror, because there's with the Alien, that's extraordinary and so unusual, but it takes place in something it's obviously set in the future, but it's something we can kind of relate to. And I think the production design is I think it's really genre defining. I think both films and games have borrowed from it in the past, and I think that was the exciting thing for us, was for the first time it felt like someone had actually gone back to that original source material and effectively based the game upon it. From the outset, it was this kind of thrilling idea of what would it be like to experience being in a space with Ridley Scott's Alien. The Alien in the first film presents something that is totally unique, where the tone of it is just where there's a crew and just one alien, deadly enough that it kind of effectively wipes out the entire crew. And I think that was the starting point for us, was what would it be like to play a game where one alien would represent this meaningful interaction to the player that would be terrifying, believable, sense that it was incredibly intelligent, it was hunting you down. We kind of ask ourselves the question, if we released that Alien in the studio right now, I mean, what would you do? Really, what would you do? And the kind of conversation went around this sort of idea of trying to get behind tables and under tables and make sure you couldn't be seen, and and then then we throw in, okay, we need to get to the fire escape or whatever, and how are you going to do that? Okay, I'm going to wait to we're going to try and peek and see if I can see it, and then and I think that's sort of just from that kind of early conversations we talked early on about wanting to re-alien the Alien, to really re-establish it as this kind of monolithic, terrifying, domineering force, and I think that's been our kind of goal from the start. One of the things Alien represents is this kind of sense of a serious sci-fi, that it's where the rules of the world are established early on, but it's very much about people. It's about a human story, and actually the sci-fi tech, the sort of technology is really downplayed, and I think that what's interesting about that is it's saying that technology isn't the answer, people are the answer. One of the great things about Alien is it has this very small, very ensemble cast of people who have different motivations and different not agendas, but they have different goals themselves, but their relationships cause tension. And of course when the alien appears, those relationships get kind of pulled apart and reformed, and so that's something that we've tried to mirror, that we have a relatively small cast in Alien Isolation, and it's a group of people you get to know, but of course events occur, and how they react to those events, they all react differently to these events, and sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative towards the player. So we really wanted the player to feel like they were underpowered and underprepared. We realised early on we didn't want a kind of constant motion tracker or this kind of magic radar that would just give you too much information, and so we wanted something that the player had to actively use. It wouldn't be just this passive box that would give you information, that you actually actively, consciously seek out the information. But then at the same time, I was really keen for every action to have some kind of cost or risk associated with it. So the motion tracker we have in Alien Isolation does give you some information, but when you're aiming it and looking at it, it blurs the background, and so that reduces the information you can see in the background. We allow you to toggle, so you can then look in the background, but then it blurs the foreground, and so there's this nice trade-off. You have to actively decide to use the motion tracker, and then actively decide to make a decision as to what and when you're looking at. So I think one of the important decisions we made early on was to not have the Alien running under any prescribed paths or patterns, that it would just be using its senses to try and hunt the player down. And I think that kind of feeds into, I think a large component of horror is the unknown, is not having the information. Information is power, and we're trying to keep the player kind of underpowered. And so, I think what's kind of fascinating for us is that we've been working on this for over 3 years, and we still die, and we still get caught out. And we know everything there is to know about this thing because we created it, and we know what's going on under the hood. But we're playing it every day, and yet it will still catch us, off guard and do things that we weren't predicting or expecting. And I think that feels quite a magical thing for us, that we're so familiar with it, and yet we still get caught out, and our hearts start racing. It's great. So Alien Isolation is on Xbox 360, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3 and PC, and it's coming out late 2014.